Okay, looks like we're recording now. All right. Good evening, Shomrei. Um, so I was asked to speak about tefillah, which I'm very happy to speak about, especially understanding the words of tefillah. Um, I think that as a religious practice, learning Torah and legal arguments is something we can relate to. Personal development is something we can relate to. Tefillah is something that's extremely difficult, that has very little secular analog. And the barriers to entry are extremely high because, well, it's in a foreign language. It's in an archaic foreign language. We don't remember sometimes that biblical Hebrew is an ancient language, and so the meanings that we typically associate with words are not necessarily what they actually were meant to mean. Um, and in addition, it's written in a flowery prose. And finally, it's something that we have to repeat over and over again, which is something that on the surface would tend to stunt our ability to connect to the words instead of it being new every time. So it behooves us to spend a bit of time understanding the words behind the things that we say. So I'm in two minds whether to do Asher Yatzar or the bracha of Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael in the Amida, both of which I think are very timely. I hope I'm not overlapping here in terms of content of what has been done in the past. Just cut in if you've done one or the other this evening in this context. But there are a couple main points. So I thought maybe I would divide the time between the two because there are a couple, very key points in each of the brachas that kind of help us to unlock the key, as it were, of each of the brachas. And so what I'd like to do is maybe start with Asher Yartzar and then kind of move to Rofei Cholei Amo Yisrael, both of which obviously are referring to our appreciation of and gratitude for good health. So the first one is Asher Yatzar, which is what Jews say when after every time we use the bathroom. And if my computer were working, I would have put up a screen share or something. But unfortunately, I'll have to kind of just leave you to your own devices. You can look up the text of Asher Yatzar anywhere. Just type in Asher Yatzar, although you gotta be careful because I think one of the search results, if you type in Asher Yatzar, is like a Jews for Jesus site, which is trying to capitalize on the search for Asher Yatzar. Anyway, regardless, so I'm really just going to be dealing with the first line or so, which I think is one of the most interesting. The first and last line are really the two most interesting. So okay. Oh, great! Somebody has shared Asher Yatzar. So it begins, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Blessed are you, Hashem, the King of the universe. Asher Yatzar, Esa Adam b'chachma, who formed human beings, mankind, with chachma, with a type of wisdom. And then it goes on to say, whoever it is that's screen sharing, we had you on screen share, but now you're just screen sharing your LinkedIn profile. So, okay, well, all right, there we go. Thank you very much. Is that Rav Shmuley? Thank you. So, so you formed human beings with wisdom and created in him cavities and tubes, and it's known, it's revealed and known before your throne of glory that if one of them were to be opened or one of them were to be closed, it would be impossible to stand before you. So Baruch atah Hashem Rofecho Basar Mafli Lasos, who heals all flesh and acts wondrously and does wonders to do. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to focus on the first line here because there's a few different variations of how it could be interpreted. So we say Asher Yatzar Esa Adam Chachma, who formed humankind with wisdom. So anyone here want to jump in and suggest to me a potential interpretation of what that line could mean? Don't make me call on people.
It could mean that man was given wisdom. We were
Okay,
created with intelligence and wisdom.
great, excellent. So the perhaps less simple reading of this phrase would be, you've given human beings wisdom. You gave us wisdom. You gave us intelligence, right? Now, the simple way of reading it, right, would be, you were wise when you fashioned human beings, right? You used intelligence to create human beings, and so there's an incredible intelligence, an incredible complexity that we could perceive if we were to look at the human body. But in addition, we have intelligence. Now, there are two different opinions that say as much, that say these two different ways of interpreting the language. But my question is, I could understand the simpler way of reading the text, right? Within the context of the bracha, where we're thanking Hashem for, what an incredible system, bodily system that we have that allows us to flush out toxins and keep in the good stuff, right? So I could understand if the text were actually telling me, wow, Hashem, you are a brilliant creator. You've created such a complex organism. However, how could we interpret this if we were to read into it the other interpretation? How does it fit within the context if we said, no, what the text really means is that we're thanking God for giving me intelligence? Any suggestions? It's a hard one. It's a difficult read.
Well, I suppose it does tie into the next part, which says that we understand that if our body doesn't work properly, we won't survive, because we do need wisdom or intelligence to appreciate that.
Okay, excellent, Sydney. So I think that's exactly spot on. In other words, I think there are actually two sides to the same coin here. That not only it's necessary but not sufficient to say that Hashem created us with a wonderfully complex system that keeps us safe and healthy. You need also the ability to recognize and appreciate it. What good is there to have this wonderfully incredible universe if there's nobody there to say, wow, that's wonderful and incredible? As I heard one of my teachers once was just kind of pondering and said, there are so many different ways in which we could have been presented into the world. You could imagine a situation where human beings, the IQ of human beings was just simply not powerful enough to be able to grasp the way that the world around them is working. And somehow, through this incredible series of events, we are right at the cusp whereby our intelligence can grasp certain things about this universe, and we can be challenged by it, and we can gain an understanding and an appreciation for it. And the fact that there is both a complex and beautiful universe, and B, an ability for us to appreciate it, well, those two things we have to be thankful for, because that's what enriches our lives, and that's what allows us not only to have a healthy system, but to be able to be grateful for it. So I think it's just such a beautiful message here, which is that part of what we do when we thank Hashem for our health is we thank him for the health. We say, thank you for creating, this incredible system that keeps me healthy. But the other part that we're thanking for is the intelligence to be able to recognize that. And I think that's just so mind-blowing. It's such a beautiful thing, is thank you for giving me the ability to be grateful. Thank you for giving me the wherewithal to recognize what's actually going on inside of my body. So I think that as we are kind of becoming very sensitive and very aware of how our bodies fight, threats to our system, and the very fact that, that to a certain degree, there are mechanisms within our body that can keep us relatively safe. By the same token, I think we need to be as well appreciative of our own faculties that allow us to ponder that, and allow us to reflect upon that. So that's the first thing that I wanted to point out about Asher Yatzar. I think it gives us an incredible appreciation and a depth of what the bracha is actually teaching me, is that contained within Asher Yatzar es ha'adam b'chachma, who formed human beings with wisdom, you can read two different and yet complementary interpretations of those words. Okay, so now I just want to go down to the bottom where it talks about where we get to the final words of the bracha, where it says Rofei chol basar mafli la'asos. Okay, who it's a very strange wording here. It says who heals all flesh. Mafli la'asos. The word pella, right? The root of that verb mafli is the word pella, right? A pella is usually something that's absolutely beyond comprehension. So an interesting juxtaposition where we just said that we were given, we human beings were given, intelligence and the wherewithal to understand our bodies and how it works. And yet there is something totally beyond our understanding and our comprehension of the way sometimes in which we are healed and the ways in which we are kept healthy. So so I want to look at this word a little bit more. What does it mean? What exactly is it referring to? Rofei chol basar umafli la'asos. So there are a couple different interpretations. Rashi on the Gemara there, where it's brought on the Gemara, I think in Brachos. Somebody who's just learned Daf Yomi, please remind me the exact Daf in Brachos, otherwise I'll look it up now. Anyone know where it is? Come on, where's all my Daf Yomi people? Okay, it's somewhere around Samach Amud Beis, something like that. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, so Rashi there says, what's so amazing is that it's like human beings are a sack full of air with lots of openings and lots of holes, and yet the sack doesn't deflate, right? So if you could imagine Rashi saying it's like a balloon with a hole in the balloon and the air doesn't escape the hole. Now, obviously, this has to be understood because we can't take it at face value. I don't think Rashi is suggesting that, how amazing is it that we don't, that our stomachs don't deflate or something like that. What I think, in order to understand the depth of what Rashi is saying, we have to look at another interpretation, which is something that the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, actually refers to. And if you look at the Mishnah Brura there on the Shulchan Aruch, the Ramah, Rabbi Moshe Isserlis, who is the very prominent Ashkenazi halachic authority on that section in the Shulchan Aruch, which usually has to do with halacha, the Ramah goes off on a tangent and says there's something really incredible that's going on here. And what the Ramah says is the following. He says that there's an unbelievable ability that is contained within the body, which is that the body has the ability to house both the most vile of excrement and at the same time the most elevated divine spark of a neshama, of a human soul. Whatever it is that animates us, that allows us to have these higher degrees of faculties, there's something unbelievable about the fact, and something absolutely paradoxical about the fact that the human body somehow is able to bridge the mind-body divide that has been plaguing human beings for hundreds of years. Somehow we're able to do it, right? And we don't exactly know, and I don't think any philosopher or neuroscientist still can understand how it is that consciousness interacts with physicality. And that's something that's been plaguing human beings for a long time. Now, the reason why the Ramah and others suggest that this is where the bracha comes to an end is because what we're discussing right now is we're discussing an intricate system that, according to natural biological processes, is keeping us alive and keeping us functioning. And yet, at the same time, what exactly is that doing? It's allowing the body to be the seat of consciousness. It's allowing the body to house something that, at least according to Jewish understanding, is a non-physical entity. The human soul, that which animates us, that which allows us to call ourselves being alive, being sentient beings. That's something that is not an emergent property of matter. It's something that coexists in some quasi state whereby we don't really understand how the two are interacting with each other. And that is what's called mafli la'asos. That's what's called an absolute pella. It's something that is totally unexplainable and continues to be unexplainable to the greatest scientific and philosophical minds today. So what we're actually discussing in Asher Yatzar is we're saying that there's some mechanism by which the physical sustenance and the physical maintenance of our human bodies is what allows us to maintain a spiritual presence and consciousness and reality. And I think, by the way, that is the deeper understanding of what Rashi's actually trying to say. When Rashi says, oh, the amazing part of a human body is like it's a sack full of air that doesn't escape, what I think he's saying is that remember, the word for air in Hebrew, ruach, is the same word for spirit. In other words, what Rashi is suggesting is that by all accounts, this thing that is totally intangible and non-physical should just escape out of the body at any moment. And yet, there is something that allows the body to house a ruach, a spirit, something that should not be inhabitable by any spiritual entity. And so what these commentaries are suggesting is that when we reflect on our physical health, what should be even more stunning and more amazing to us is that the physical health is literally just a counterpart to being able to allow for and house a spiritual consciousness. And that's something that's totally awesome, totally amazing. And that now we can start to understand some of the other language that's contained within the Asher Yatzar Bracha, where we talk about it's revealed and known before the throne of your glory that, thank God my orifices are working. Those two seem to be in such stark juxtaposition. The inner workings of my sphincters should now, and blood vessels should now be revealed and known before the throne of glory. But of course, if we understand correctly, we say that's exactly what's going on. You need something such a physical and such a complex biological process to be able to even have a conversation about something that is so lofty and high that we would consider it to be, revealed in front of the throne of glory, which is a metaphor for that which exists at the highest of the metaphysical echelons of existence. And so now we can start to understand the gap that we're bridging here. So basically what we're going for here in the Asher Yatzar Bracha is that we're saying it shouldn't be just some simple, health class biology lesson when we come out of the bathroom and we say, oh, thank you for keeping all my sphincters in order. And thank you for making sure that everything's opening and closing properly. What we should be thinking is, wow, oh my gosh, there is some unbelievable, unexplainable, mind-blowing phenomenon that's occurring here. That by the fact that I can release excrement from my body, that is somehow directly contributing to the fact that I remain a conscious, living, sentient human being. And if you come out of the bathroom and you say a bracha like that every time, so then, God knows that you're going to have a lot more appreciation for the fact that your body is working correctly. In other words, we have to start looking at the body not as some low-life, vile, necessary evil that we have to carry around with us, which is carrying us full of blood and bile and all these things that are, that are gross and disgusting, but really I'm some lofty soul. No. What we're actually saying is that we should be totally looking at the harmony and the blending of these two realities together such that you cannot have one without the other. And all that blood and all that bile is now being elevated to the loftiest throne of glory. And we're saying, wow, it's an incredible, amazing, spiritually beautiful thing that I have a working body. So hopefully that gives us a newfound appreciation a bit more of an excitement about what it means to have a body that works and is healthy. And especially in these times, um, we can feel much more with a greater sensitivity what it actually means to have a healthy body, right? The Chovos Levavos, the Duties of the Heart, which was one of the early seminal works of Musar that was written, I believe, in the 10th century of the Common Era, says that appreciation really only comes about through contrast. And unfortunately, that's true. So we had a student once who was from Chicago, and she said, you know, I love Chicago. And I said, why would you love Chicago? It's 20 below freezing Fahrenheit, which is like even more Celsius. I was like, why would you ever want to live there? She said, because it makes my coffees taste so good, right? So the contrast of, the beauty of a hot drink on a freezing cold day, we'll never know, just how good it is, because we're not living in 20 below temperature, thank God. But today, when we're looking around us and we're seeing how easy it is to get sick and what the terrible, dire consequences are of becoming sick, and we still have healthy functioning bodies. So now is the time for us to stop and meditate and think about exactly what that means, and come to a greater appreciation and a greater gratitude and a greater joy for the fact that we have bodies that allow us to be the human beings that we can be. Okay, so I don't know if I have to go on till the end here until 8:30 exactly, but that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say. So if there was anybody who wanted to jump in, make a comment, ask a question, go ahead, feel free. Otherwise, I'll leave everyone to whatever it is that you're doing to pass the time. Getting drunk, watching Netflix, who knows? Oh, but I assume it's learning Torah.
Or all of the above.
Or all of the above. We still have yet to put a Torah Netflix show, get a Torah Netflix show up on there, but we're getting closer. We're getting closer with what's it named, Shtisel. Okay, guys. All right. So I want to say thank you all for having me. Thank you for hosting me. It's a privilege to be able to share some wisdom and some Torah with you all, and it's an incredible testament to you guys to decide at 8 p.m. that you want to tune in and hear some Torah. So kol hakavod.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yes, Kai.